welcome to Imperial Fringe. Thanks for coming and thanks for having. There's so much here to explore. We've been talking to all kinds of interesting people, and we've got another interesting person here, Antoni Pakowski, developer of Kodama. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Thank you very much for the introduction. That's
thank you.
Very kind of you.
So, I found out a little bit about it, but maybe just for the people listening, tell us a little bit about Kodama.
Absolutely. So Kodama is a new type of interface that allows you to manipulate 3D content in an intuitive way. So 3D content is becoming the new standard. A lot of people are starting to work with 3D content, and yet we still use a 2D mouse and a keyboard to manipulate it. So Kodama enables you to actually take objects, pick them up, just like you would in the real world. And how it works is we have a mat, and this mat is a digital representation of the 3D space. And then we have our air mouse, which is the object that you can then take. You can pick up different things, you can control them, and it's a one-to-one representation in real time of your 3D content.
And this is just, we've got a whole bunch of people exploring this right now on the table just there, and we will put it on the big screen straight after this interview. Can you tell us a little bit about how this idea came into being?
So it's actually a pretty long story. It's been 2 years now. It doesn't seem that long, but so it started out by being a tool for creating 3D animations for young users. And that's one of the applications that people are playing with today on the screen. But to actually make it happen, we needed to develop our own technology. And once we developed that technology, we realized that there's a lot more to it than just that one application. So we started testing it with a lot of different things. So for example, any kind of casual 3D creation and manipulation, like games for kids where they can draw in space, where they can color 3D models, they can manipulate 3D models. So that's what we're developing now. That's the product that's on the table over there. But it can scale significantly to other sectors. So you can actually use it for engineering applications to move a 3D model to see if engineering assembly fits or doesn't fit and all this kind of stuff.
So you're calling this an air mouse? Is that because earlier on today you were calling it something else? You were calling it a 3D mouse. But I mean, I think I get the idea. I mean, I think part of this, I guess what the question is really, it's a kind of thing, a new thing that doesn't exist, and this has been a thing for, I guess, for most of the innovators we've been talking to. How do you kind of explain to somebody something that they don't understand or don't know what it is, and explain that they actually need this thing?
I think that's definitely a problem when you develop something that hasn't been done before, and people have no idea what it is. If you call it something too complex or something completely new, there you have no references to anything that's out there, and as a result, it's just becoming misunderstood. But yeah, going back to the name of it, I think it's still a work in progress. So we haven't exactly tied down what it is. It's we don't want to call it just a 3D mouse because that really kills the experience of it. So that's still work in progress, essentially.
Yeah. Well, maybe some of the people using it right now could give us what should we call this device? I personally quite like air mouse. I mean, I was talking to Antoni earlier on, and we came up with the idea of bat rather than mouse, but you weren't that keen on that idea. But, I mean, I guess it is about communicating something that's an experience, I suppose, and trying to give people a sense of how they use it when maybe their attention is not attuned to this research that you've been doing. Is that fair to say?
I'm not actually certain I understand that question. That was a very long and complex question.
Yeah, it was a long complex. Basically, and this goes back to something that Nathan earlier on said, keep it as simple as possible. So the question is, how do you communicate something that's new?
Yeah, so that's definitely a challenge. So you need to draw some kind of parallel to something that already exists. Otherwise, people don't they don't realize that they actually need it. So in our case, because 3D manipulation like ours hasn't been done before. The first game we created for it for kids to interact with it. Well, kids had no problem understanding it. It's for their parents to actually understand it. Yeah. We needed to tie that to some kind of game that they already knew. So in that case, it was coloring something, because all of a sudden parents understood that, oh, I remember what coloring is. Oh, I can have a coloring book in 3D. That's incredible. Where, you know, we were trying to do very complex games where you could move stuff in 3D space, interact in different ways, and parents just didn't have a reference to that, so they would just stare at it blankly and not understand. But once you start building those references, people start understanding and seeing the value in it.
I mean, is that frustrating for you? You know, trying to put something out there, and because there's no frame of reference, it's kind of hard for people to get it.
I mean, it's definitely quite frustrating, because it's something that you work on for a very long time, and because you're part of the process, you know what it is and you know exactly what it's good for, and you know you try to explain it to people and people don't understand, and you just get very frustrated with having to redefine it constantly. But it's just part of the process, I think. You know, it's another complex part of innovation, is to actually make users understand what it is and why they should be using it.
I mean, that's one thing we've learned today, that innovation, even if it's something very simple, has got a very, very complex story. Where would you like to see this product go next? Where would you like to see it used? Tell us.
Well, we kind of, because we have this discussion a lot, you know, to see where we're heading, what we're imagining, and to be honest, we're kind of thinking, with the way that that computing is going in these days, so everything turning 3D, everything becoming more interactive, we're really hoping that, you know, one day Kodama, or a certain variant of Kodama, will be you can find in every household. That's kind of where, you know, embedded into different objects, let's say laptops and things like that. But that's kind of the dream, is to actually get people to adapt this, to learn to use it, and to find value in using it.
I mean, do you see the whole interface of keyboard, screen and mouse evolving into something three-dimensional? Or is it just your interface?
No, I think definitely. I mean, the content is already 3D, and people do interact with 3D content in intuitive ways through things like virtual reality, for example. And you know, this kind of stuff works very well, but the problem is that how often are you going to be sitting around wearing a headset on a day-to-day basis when working in the office? So that's kind of a very unrealistic approach. So the goal is to kind of make this 3D interaction and interacting and working with 3D content user-friendly in a way that they can actually interact with other humans while they're doing it. And yeah, that's kind of where we view the value of what we're making.
Okay, I mean, do you think our kind of world is changing from, I mean, it's always been 3D, we've always been living in 3 dimensions, but I guess our world of work and our world of play has been this, and our world of entertainment has been 2-dimensional. Do you see that a whole culture shift where we somehow we enter into this 3D world?
So I think I kind of disagree with you on this, that our world is 2-dimensional. When you start, you know, as a child, and you have your toy airplane, and you imagine it flying through space, you're imagining this airplane going somewhere and it flying around things, and that's all 3-dimensional. And your imagination is 3-dimensional, but then we're reduced to only drawing things on 2-dimensional paper, and then over time we adapt to just becoming 2-dimensional humans that work on screen. But if you can basically express this imagination at a young age using a 3D medium, then you have a lot more potential in the future to interact with technology, to work with technology, and yeah, to
so
adapt.
I guess there's a huge potential for the imagination. The imagination has always been 3-dimensional. It's just been the media that have been 2-dimensional.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that's we are 3-dimensional beings, and we interact in a 3D way. And I think computing is heading in the same direction. It's just the interface. The first interface that was given to us was in 2D, and that's what we adapted. And I think there needs to be a revolution to bring us to the next interface. So I'm hoping that's where we're positioning ourselves.
I mean, for sure, we've got Kodama and the air mouse, I'm going to call it for now. What other things need to be in place for this revolution to happen?
Well, I think in general, like a lot of technology is heading in that direction. For example, augmented reality. People actually wearing goggles, augmenting things, seeing, let's say Pokemon Go and things like that. That's all a 3D world being, our 3D world being augmented with 3D content.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of technological shift is happening already. There's a lot of use cases of AR being used in the workplace. People wearing goggles while doing maintenance on pipes, where they have kind of a display of what they're doing and what they should be doing. But yet there's still not really a good intuitive way of interacting with it. Yeah. And because Kodama also works with AR, the idea is to give you a physical handle to interact with this kind of content, so you can actually touch your digital file, move it around physically, and when you kind of get this confidence of touch, a lot of this interaction becomes more natural. It becomes an actual interaction as opposed to just an augmented experience.
Yeah. So I mean, will we even be calling it augmented reality in the future? It will just be our reality.
Real reality.
Yeah. Now, I'm asking very bad questions because I'm sort of asking questions that I'm answering myself, which is terrible for an interview host. So we're going to have to actually wrap this up. Typically, it's not enough time. So is there anything else finally you'd like to say? You think that the kind of, I guess, is the way ahead for innovation in general, Imperial? I mean, what kind of things should the college be putting in place to make these kind of things happen?
I think in general, when we look around the room today, I think there's a lot of innovation happening in all of these different directions, and I think Imperial is doing a really good job nurturing innovation and empowering young people to actually try and push forward. It's being an entrepreneur, having an experience of 2 years of being an entrepreneur, it's a really tough experience. Yeah. So it's important to have as much support during those first steps as possible. Yeah. So definitely Imperial's been there along the way, and
so they're doing everything right in a way.
Absolutely. I mean,
that's great. It's good. That's really good to hear. And good luck with the project. To me, it seems like just a matter of time before Kodama is in every house. It seems completely natural to me, and this is going to be the new reality. That's what we're talking about here. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to see your device being used on the big screen as soon as we play the theme music. So thanks for that.
Thank you very much.